Okay, so welcome everyone to this new episode of EagleFly, the experimental debugger. Today we are going to continue exploring the IR32 architecture and the 64 architecture as well, because we want to understand both architectures. And yeah, I think I already opened the Intel 64 and the i32 manual. That's pretty good manual, man. I mean, it's super concise. It's super understandable, and man. I mean, it's not like these crazy papers that you find out about new algorithms or stuff that they're super blurry in the way they explain stuff and super. I mean, they assume that you know some kind of this stuff, or I don't know, man. I mean, the thing is that they are not the same as concise as this, for example, and that's really important. I mean, when you if you I mean because I mean that's the whole point of. I mean, if you're trying to explain something new to somebody, you're not gonna go and say fancy stuff because that's not useful. You have to say something simple. You have to say in the simplest possible manner so that everybody can understand. So I mean, I always say if you can explain something to a child, then you understand it, man. That's the essence, man. If not, you're just a stupid guy just saying stupid stuff, And so, as that, I think that these guys know what they're doing, and we should follow it. So, let's continue on because I think we left off in a really important part of it because that is floating point data types. And floating point data types is a huge deal. It's a huge deal on computer architecture and computer processing. Mm. So yeah. So let's see what we find out about the IR32 processing floating point data types. And of course, if you would like to follow along, please feel free. You can ask any questions, any doubts you have about the project, any inquiries about what we're doing. You can openly ask me any question and I'll be there to answer. Okay, with that in mind, I think we're gonna start. Okay, the 32 bits length, 64 and 80 bits length. (3.1 times 10 to the minus 5 power) and 6.5 times 10 to the 4 power, which gives us, I mean, that's kind of the approximation. If we use binary as the base, it would be 2 to the 15 and 2 to the minus 14. So let me hold this. If we go to the calculator and we say 2 to the 15, okay, so they get two different kind of ranges depending on their whether they are binary or decimal. How do I just no the page was gone. What can you do, man? What can you do? Let's go back to the place where we left off. There was chapter 4. Hold me a second. Alright, so let's see. Yeah, and the reason because why there are different ranges between binary and decimals, it's because probably there are different representations, you know. I mean, you cannot represent the same numbers on a base 2 rather than a base 10, you know. There are certain numbers they cannot be approximated correctly on one base rather than the other. So yeah, we have to take a look about the is explicitly set to 1 for normalized numbers, infinites and nans, and to 0 for 0 and denormalized numbers. Okay, so a normalized number is something like in the way of having, let me go to another place. Well, it's not arc, FPU, I guess. FP instructions. So, for example, if we have a real 32 or a single precision, this is single precision, floating point type, and we have, they say something like about we have 32 but the precision bit's 24, so we have 24. So we have 24 bits for precision or the significant, and we have 32 minus 24 is 8, minus 1 is 7, 7 bits for the exponent and 1 for the sign. And yeah, so what a normalized number means is that, for example, you want to represent I don't know, some number, I don't know, like 3.14 15 you know, you want to represent that number. So this is not a normalized number because it has as integer the number 3. Well, and this can be something like 3. This can be represented as how can I say, 0.3 14 15 9 times 10 to the minus 1. You know what I mean? This and this are basically the same thing, but now we have a base now. I mean, this can be times 10 to the 0, I guess, times 10 to the 0. And this is called the base. This is exponent. And this is the significant. So that you will always have to treat it in a certain, I mean, this kind of expression way, you know. So if you think about it, now we just have how can I say it? The integer bit. Well, this can be 0, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's a 0, although I don't know how do they normalize the number itself. I mean, they should. I mean, they do this, but also they do something else, or uh, yeah. And I don't have internet to check that, but doesn't matter. It's not such a deal right now. We just want to see. So yeah, because if it's denormalized, it cannot be 1. And there's this kind of notion of a bias exponent, which I don't know what it is. So we have a sign of 0 for positive numbers and a sign bit set for negative ones. And we have infinites, normals, which the first integer is 1, and the normals which integer is not 1. The exponent, it's going to be 1 1 1 1 1 1, okay, for a positive, and for a negative it's going to be 1 1 1, okay, the same. And for the 0, the exponent is going to be 0, okay, that makes sense. Although if you have 0, and you have to have 0 on the significand and 0 on the integer, 0 on the integer, 0, okay, so yeah, everything, because it's not, it's got 0 to the 0. What's 0 to the 0? Yeah, 0 to the 0, 0 to the 2 to 0 times 2 to the 0. I don't know what the number is. Well, 2 to the 0 is 1, isn't it? And 1 times 0 is 0, so that makes sense. So we have 0, and then we have 1, and then it goes to the fraction part. It can be all set, and for the fraction, oh, okay, interesting. So infinite positive numbers are gonna have a fraction of 0, and all bit sets on the exponent biased, and the integer is gonna be implied for single and double precision. For all the others are gonna be set to this value. So it's gonna be 1 1 1 1 1 1, and 0 for the normals for positives, and it's gonna be 0 for the normals, so also for negatives and positives, and sets for normals. Okay, so basically an integer bit set means that it's a normal. If it's not set, means that it's a denormal. Okay, and or 0, you know, because 0 is also represented encoded as integer 0. And let me see, the fraction part works pretty much basically the same, although here in normals, when you're working with normals, you have exponent being set, it goes from 1 to the maximum minus 1, and the reason is because if you use the maximum, it would be an infinite number, so you want to represent it just from 1 to the maximum minus 1. And that's for normals, with integer implied to be 1 and the fraction element being to 0 or to 1. So that would be okay, so that means that if we set here, like for example, I don't know, something like 1.23 or no, sorry, or even something like this, 0.0, well, it cannot be that, well, it's gonna be 0 0. Imagine that we have 0 0 0 zeros on the significance times 2, and if it's to the 1, that means that it's well, it's gonna be, if it's an implied normalized value, this is a normalized integer positive floating point value. If it was 0, it would be denormalized. If this number was 0, it would be a 0 itself, you know. And okay. And the interesting part is that the normals don't use exponents at all. You know, they don't use exponents. Why don't they use exponents? That's my question. They do use, the normals use a fraction, and if you see the fraction starts at 1 and ends up at the maximum number, but it's never 0, because if it was 0, it would be the zeros, eh? So the normals and zeros are pretty much the same, just that I mean, a 0 is like a denormal, but with the 0 fraction. And minus 0 is just the same, it's the same as the denormal, but the bit of the sign has been set. The bias exponent is never used, and you use all the integer is implied to be 0 as well, and or you can set it depending, and everything else works pretty much the same. So probably I don't know if it works as 2 complements, which I don't think so, because this is not the biggest one. Yeah, they don't work as 2 complements. They don't work as 2 complement. They work more like this kind of design bit that we were talking before, you know. As this thing. Which basically they use the sign to differentiate between a positive and a negative number, and that's all she said. And a negative infinite number, well, first a negative normal, it would be the sign bit set. So you have, okay, for normals it would be the same. The normals, they don't have, okay, by exponent, and the exponent for normals go from 1 to the maximum number minus 1. The integer is implied to be 1 as well, and the numbers go from 0 to 1, the same as well. And yeah, so I mean, it makes sense totally, I guess. It makes sense. And infinite numbers are basically all bits set for the bias exponents. The integer is implied to be 1. So so infinites, they resemble more as the normalized value, and zeros, they refer more like as the normal value, which is interesting. And infinites, they are more like integer. They imply a bit set for the integer, and the fraction part is going to be 0. And that's the thing that differentiates what that actually this doesn't differentiate, but it differentiates from the with the exponent itself. Okay. So you take all combinations from this. And then not the numbers. I never know what not number presentation or how do you use it. But basically it's the same, you know. Well, I cannot see this, but let me see. This is not number single or quad. I don't know what the difference is between this and this. But it's QNAND and SNAND, and then QNAND floating point indefinite. And then you go half precision, single precision, double extended precision. And half precision has a base bit 5, 8, 11, 20, 23, 52, 63. Is the size of the components of the value type in bits, and okay, that makes sense. So now what's the representation of a NAND, for example? A NAND doesn't have a sign bit, or I don't know what X means, but probably doesn't have a sign bit. It has it's an infinite, and it has an implied integer, which is 1 as well, and it has 0 x x x x x x x x x x x x. Oh, I see. So that's the way they represent it. They used, if you remember, I said that you take all the combinations for the infinite number and this, but no, they got a good use for that. And the good use is that they use it for NANDs and QNANDs, which basically the only thing that differentiates is that, okay, you have any number, you know, so it can be any. I guess that X, that's what that means, any. So yeah, they say the fraction for SNAND codes must be non-zero with the most significant bit 0. Yeah, because if it was 0, it would be infinite. Yeah. And the fraction part has to have the most significant bit set to 0, and for QNANDs the most significant bit has to be set to 1. And there's another type that's QNAND floating point indefinite, that's basically the same but with all zeros and the most significant bit set to 1 in precision. And you have basically the same, and it has to have a 1 as a sign. And I don't know if effects means that anything can go here. I don't know. So it can be 1 or 0, 1 or 0. So yeah, if you remember, the operand size define the way the size for the address, and the different combinations apply to different set of address sizes, with these different prefixes and the rex extension, rex.w extension. So yeah, I believe I already have it here. I just have the one for the 321, but it was easy because the overwriting for RxW was always being set all the time, so we have 64-bit offsets with 64-bit operand sizes. Which basically is like super close here. I don't know what is it. This is the one. But here the address size is never 16, isn't it? Just the operand. Because I read that the address can never be less than 32 on 64-bit mode. Here, 16-bit addresses are not supported in 64-bit mode. So, does that mean that addresses and pointers are not the same thing? So probably it's because the operand can be 16 when you don't have the REXW prefix. So, let me go back to here, to the place where we left off. This equates to an effective address. That's 64-bit modes. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the kind of simplest one. And 4 pointers, which are it's because 4 pointers in 64-bit mode are kind of this special thing that even though probably it's not necessary, sometimes it is because since you don't have segmentation, it's not really a thing, but you can use it. You have it here, and the segment selector is going to be always 16 bits because that doesn't change at all, but the address or the offset, more specifically the offset, Yeah, this is not the address. This is not the thing that was there. This is the pointer, you know. And pointers where you can have addresses, even though addresses are not gonna be less than 16 bits. You can have a far pointer that has a 16-bit offset in 64-bit mode with a 16-bit segment selector. Okay, so I want to see that being used. I mean, what do we use that for, you know? And we have 32-bit offset. This is normal, and 64. This is normal. I mean, these two are the kind of the normal things where you can address. I mean, you can insert 64-bit addresses there. You know, you cannot put an address of 64-bit address here. So you put just some kind of segment. I don't know, but we will see. This thing is interesting. Let me put it right here. Bias. Okay, cool. Let me put pointers. so it can have up to 6553 no sorry 4 gigabytes or bytes. It can have 4 gigabytes. Four gigs. That's a lot, isn't it? Oh no, but they are bits, so they are gigabits. And if it's gigabits, 4 gigabits. So we have 2 to the 32, so we have 4 gigabits. Now that divided by 8, and we have 556 million of bytes, which basically it's like approximate like 500 megs. 500 megs. Oh, okay. So they are. I'm sorry. They are. I didn't see this. A bit string and a byte string, and a byte string can have the same kind of range and it's gonna be bigger, 4 gigabytes. So there are two types: the bit string and the byte string. The bit string can be in any space of a byte, and a byte string can contain bytes, words, double words, whatever. And can range from 0 to 4 gigs. Okay, that's cool. So does that mean that it's like an array, but it's like this dynamic array where you can have like any kind of type you want? Okay, hold on. So forgive me if Okay, so this was I'm sorry if I needed to check the internet connection because they were fixing it. But now we got the good thing is that we have internet, and yeah. So yeah, let's continue with this because we were looking at the SIMD data types. Now, one thing I want to check about the internet is oh, where is the internet? Hold me a second. Once again, sorry. Okay, so yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, we got it. We got it to work. Now we have internet back, and yeah. Mm,
Everyone, and welcome to Handmade Hero Show. We code a complete game live on stream.
awesome. We have Hami here. All right, so that was the whole thing of testing. So now we can continue. Of course, yeah. I'm really sorry for this. And but yeah, we have to go. Uh, Now SIMD, okay, SIMD basically works like in package, you know. SIMD it's like, go from 0 to 63 0 bits, and it can be pack bytes, pack words, or pack double words. And I mean that this means like, I mean, it's just like a kind of the representation of data, because the fundamental types are just data, it doesn't care, it doesn't have any notion of numbers itself, but you can see them as a number if you think about it. I- if instead of looking as a data, you see that it's a number, and even though, and since, I mean, this is way to see it, this kind of direct representation for a number from a fundamental type, that basically is a direct mapping. Oh, no, no, no. The ones 64 are mmx and 128 are xmmm. binary coded and packet binary coded decimal integers, they are 4-bit integers. That means that it's half a byte, with values ranging from 0 to 9. Okay. If you have 4 bits, 2 to the 4 is 16, and you just have 0 to 9, where are the other 6 elements? 5 elements? 6. So if you want to operate on BCD and BCD integers, you have to do it on general purpose registers or on the x87 FPU registers. So you have okay, so you have I mean, you can have in a byte 2 integers, and this like this binary coded, whereas you can have one integer on the low 4 bits and one integer on the upper high 4 bits. That's all. I mean, I don't see any kind of practical reason to have the integers back in BCDs, but probably there's a reason for that. And then you can have an 8-bit pack BCD. I mean, if this is not sufficient for you, and you want to pack so 80-bit, it's like this extended editable precision floating point type that we had before. That was the biggest one, and this is like the same, but you have basically 18 packed integers, and there's a sign and some x value that you don't care about, or I don't know. And yeah, I mean the reason that they can be any value during addition is because the bits they are not affected on addition or subtraction, because addition respects the uh, linear spacing or singularity of each bit, whereas if you make multiplication cross arranges bits and they modify the values uh, across. And you don't want that, of course. That's the reason you have to be. But in any case, I mean that's kind of error prone. You know, I mean you don't want to have a binary coded decimal value and just let the user to inject some data on the upper half bits and go bananas. You know. Yeah. So I mean it's kind of a janky thing, I guess. So we have back decimal integer encodings. Okay, so we have 9 bytes. And they don't use these complements, so the sign is the only thing that separates them. You know, they have signs. It's the positive largest, the smallest, and 0, and we have a negative 0, and smallest, and the largest, negative 1. We have 2 zeros again, so that means that we have I don't know what's this. Okay, yeah. So these are the bits that are not touched at all, and these are the digits, and the digits are basically packed. You know, it can be uh, so why? I mean, they are 4 bits, but why does this in the largest number it's all ones? So I mean that sets you up with 2 to the 3 combination. 2 to the 3 it's 8, so you have 16, so you have 8 possible values, well 7 because you used 1 that you're not using. Is there a reason? And it's something reasonable because, well, the smallest is the 1 and just the least significant one, and this is, if you think about, I mean, this is the most significant digit, and it goes the same. And for negatives it's just the same, and for okay, so you have a packed BCD integer indefinite, which is negative, and it has all set to ones in the unused bytes, and it has 111111110 bytes. This is 1 byte, and this is the sign, and this is okay, 2 bytes are gonna be all ones. The third byte coming from the most significant byte is gonna be half bits set and half bits not set. Okay. So basically this is this, you know. FBSTP okay, so that's kind of, I know it's kind of crazy, these BCDV numbers, but you know, probably there's a reason for it. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we had to read this because here is the essence for what bias exponents are and normalize, and I mean, this is going to be the explanation for that stuff. the significand is normalized and the exponent is biased. For the single precision floating point format, the biasing constant is 127. Sorry. Okay, so we have this chart and it says that we have the real system because 0, 1, 10, 100, infinite, minus infinite. Let me zoom a little bit so we can see it. Okay, and the subset of the binary real number system. Oh no, sorry, this is binary. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and blah blah blah. And then this subset of binary real numbers that can be represented with the IEEE single precision ready to be floating point format. It's basically okay, just a minute. I mean, you cannot express the whole thing, but if you see there's a distribution that tends to do good for making distinctions across more and more how do you say this, little ranges when you approximate to 0 rather than when you approximate to bigger size numbers. And that, I mean, that tells you basically that precision, I mean, the first thing that we can deduct from here is that the format for single precision of a 32-bit floating point format tends not to have good precision for big numbers, you know, and it tends to have a huge precision on little numbers and normalized values. Basically, these are the normalized values. So that's the reason why they always have this normalized thing, I guess. So the floating point precision format is there to work for normalized things. And here you go. This is the 24 binary digits in the space that you have, and you have this implied integer. Oh, okay. Is this implied or is it not implied? I don't know. And then if you think about it, I mean, this I mean, this whole set of ones, if you add 1, well, oh, okay, so that's epsilon. That's epsilon. I mean, there's if you have 24 binary digits to express this thing, and then you want to go to the next binary number, which is 2, and they're going from 1 to 2, you know, because they're going from 1 point, and the biggest representable how do you call this, the significant, or the, how is it called, the the I mean, it's the significant, but I was saying the precision. Well, it's the precision, or the decimal digits. Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I was looking for. The decimal expression. It's not decimal because it's binary, but you know, the so the most significant. I mean, the thing that I was just want to say is that, yeah, if you want to pass from the number in binary that expresses the most in this single precision format, and you want to pass to the next integer, then that's the number that you cannot express, basically, you know. I mean, this chart explains that, you know. I mean, there's a gap between this number and this number, you know, some number, you know, I don't know, some number, and well, not a number, it's some range, you know, and that range of numbers that exists on the continuous space of a binary expression on a real number of a real continuous space, that doesn't exist here, you know. So if you say well, they put it here, you know, they put it, I mean, this is the number, this is 11111 in the real 32 line, in the real number, sorry, and there's the 10, and this gap, these are the whole set of numbers that you cannot express because there's no way to do it, you know. Where do you put the whole extra thing, you know? Okay, that's cool. And it's the same if you want to go to 10 and you want to go to the next number. Well, you go to 10 blah 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 1, and there's, I mean, the numbers between 10 blah 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 1 and 10, you cannot express this either. And that's the whole point. Although I don't know if it's there 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24. So yeah, the integer, it's, I mean, it should be implied, isn't it? But it's just because the binary is just set as that, you know, because you said that the first element is going to be the integer and then the decimal count, or the binary count. Fractional, that's the word. That was the word I was looking for. The fractional part and the integer part. This is the integer part and this is the fractional part. So, but the binary, the significand is going to express the whole thing, the integer and the fractional part, with implying up that there's a decimal, a point between just the one integer and the decimal thing, you know. And here's the j bit that's in there, and the fraction. So they always, like, if it's normalized, they always take the integer so that you don't use it, so that you have more precision, you know, because that gives you a little, one bit more close to the correct representation, I guess. But it's kind of tricky because I mean, what number is this? you know, it's a number, uh, that is sufficiently close, or probably it's not too close, I guess, but to this new number. And then we have a fraction. Oh, and now I understand why does this it gets respected. I mean, why does this distribution happens to have to be encoded that way? I mean, why does this encoding of the number results on this distribution of numbers that can be represented is because the exponent itself, you know so you use like an exponent to represent the value. You will always need, I mean, it's good, I mean, an exponent is really good to uh, it's basically like this kind of mover. It moves the floating the dot to one place or to the other place. If it's in a base 2, it's going to be moving just the same way. But the point here is that the exponent is really good for moving across really, really small numbers. I mean, really, really, and small numbers, I mean numbers that are close to 0. And the reason is because, I mean, we can see it really clearly here. I mean, if I move right here, if I say, I don't know, if I say 0.0, and I'm gonna do it in decimal because in binary it's gonna be bananas. But I don't know, if I'm gonna say 0.00001, 2, 1, 2, this is the number I want to represent. This is my real number and I want to represent it in floating point. So the thing that I do is basically say, oh, this is 1, 2 times 10 to the minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6. This is our number. Well, it's not floating point. Well, this is a floating point decimal representation. So it's 1.2 times 10 to the minus 6. And this is the same thing. And now you have, this is the significand, this is the base, and this is the exponent. And that's really good, because you can represent it. Since you have a combinatorial thing here going on where you have the exponent let you represent this number, and this number, I mean the exponent alone can let you represent this number and probably any kind of, I mean, you just shift it, you say it can be 1.2 to the minus 6, 1.2 to the minus 5, minus 5. It can be to the minus 3, to the minus 3, to the 3, to the well, I don't know if it's gonna go with minus 3 because it's a signed bit, isn't it? I don't know if you can go to minus 3, but I don't know, it doesn't matter. So you can go minus 5, 3, 3, I mean any number, I don't know if they are the sign values. I think they are signed, isn't it? They are signed. Where's the it's 127. Well, it doesn't matter if it's unsigned now, but I mean the point is, I mean, you got the point. It's, you can move the point and you can represent different numbers with the same significance. So the reason that helps to represent numbers that are normalized is because if you want to represent, for example, a number that's really huge, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, blah 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 blah. That, I mean, this is little, I guess, but you can get the idea. 1, 12, 3, 2, 4. You have to have. I mean, if you increase the number of the integer size, you have less space to represent the fractional part, and that's the reason that there's less precision. I mean, that's I mean, I probably don't explain mathematically, but it's just like the more you add to here, the less you will have to represent the fractional part, and that's the reason why the distribution goes in that way, and which probably, I mean, that works in the most cases because we want to work with normalized values rather than with really really huge values, in normal cases. But I mean you also want to have some kind of precision there, So for example, this number 178.125, it's 1.78 exponent 10 to the 2, or 2 square, times 10 square. Okay, in scientific binary, that number, it's approximated to 1.01110111000011, which basically this 78.12.5 has to be that. Let me put it here so we can take a look at that. Let's take a look at that, and I want to go to binary mode, and I want to say that I have 1.1.0.0.1.0.0.0.1, and then that's to the 111. No, I don't want this thing. Jesus, no. God. Okay, so yeah, and the exponent is bigger because. So my question is if exponents move like basically the same in binary as in decimal, but I think so. And this is the bias exponent. The bias exponent is it's a different exponent, although I mean probably the reason that they bias is because it lets you represent. I mean, since you have more size to represent the exponent, you wanna get a better use for all the quantity of elements that you get. Instead of just uh, moving one 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 one. That basically this is 7 2 to the 7. And yeah, the 1 it's implied. You don't get the 1. Oh, so this is the thing. Yeah. So you can have negative numbers, but they are biased, so they are always represented as positive numbers. So you don't need to have an extra bit to to get the sign, because you don't want to get the sign. Oh, oh, that makes whole sense. So yeah, and that's why they always choose the half, because if you move it by half, you would get half positive, half negative, but which is basically this. It's 127 for a single precision format, which is 8 bits. And we know that 2 to the 8 is 256, which the half is going to be 127. So that's the reason why there's 127, because the maximum number of numbers that you can represent it's 256 numbers. So you want to have half numbers that can be negative and half numbers that can be positive, so the exponents can range from minus 127 to minus 128 to 127, so it's something like minus 128 plus 127, what? Minus 128 plus 127. Jesus. Minus 128. Oh yeah. Sorry. Minus 1. Sorry. It's 128 plus 1. 128 plus 128. Yeah. So that's the reason they use that bias thing, because the processor can use the bias exponent, do a sum or subtraction, I don't know, can be a sum, and it will get the real exponent from it, and it can be negative if it needs to, but it doesn't need, it can get it on the fly without the necessity to get it encoded, that's the whole point of it. And we have to we think we have to dig a little bit more in how values are normalized. Are normalized, because here I don't see that. But for the thing that I see is that the numbers normally go from 1 to 2. That's what a normalized number is. How does they normalize it? That's the question. But you can have numbers, if the number is bigger than 1, it's gonna go from 1 to 2 somehow. If the number is less than 1, then it's gonna be some kind of 0.0 blah 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 number, and that it's simple, because you just shift with exponent to the most significant set bit, and you will get the representation for that number. So yeah, I think that's good. Oh, just no, man. No, I don't want that. I don't want that, man. Jesus. Okay, so base exponents. Good. That was really explanatory of what the thing. You always get by the half, and you get the half and half of exponent representation. Oh man. Oh man. Real number and non-number encoders. A variety of real numbers and special values can be encoded into triple E standard 754 floating point format. Sang zeros, the normalized finite numbers, taking finites, nans, and indefinite numbers. The term nan stands for not a number. The figure 4 of 12 shows how the encodings of these numbers and non-numbers fit into the real number continuum. The encodings shown here are the triple single precision floating point format. The term S indicates the sign bit, the E the bias exponent, and the significant. The exponent values are given in decimal. The integer bit is shown for the significance even though the integer bit is implies single precision floating point blah blah blah. Okay, so I think we will continue with this on the next stream, so we can take a look at the nans and stuff like that, which I think, I mean, even though it's not like something we normally work on, it's something that we have to represent, because I mean, you don't know what these I mean, you know what the system itself, the application is going to work. We have to understand these values because they are essential for working on the IFA2 architecture. But hey, we got something going in, and I think it's gonna be relatively straightforward to continue with this. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how long it's gonna take, but you know, we have to get as much as we can. You know, that's the rule, man. We have to explore here and never set back. All right, so yeah, I think that was good for today. And yeah, please, if you have any questions, ask them on Twitch or on Twitter or on YouTube, and I'll be there to answer. Yeah, you have any queries, please feel free to ask them. As for now, I think that will be all, and I will see you all on the next stream.